Okay.
All right. Hello and welcome to the Monday, February 8th, 2021 virtual meeting of the Green Bay Planning Commission. We'll start with a roll call. Chair Lisa Hanson, present. Vice Chair Jacob Miller.
Present.
Alder Veronica Corpustax.
Present.
Commissioner
Present.
Commissioner Darius Daniels.
Present.
And Commissioner Autumn Linsmeyer.
Present.
All right, we're moving on to the approval of the agenda for the February 8th, 2021 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by by Alder Corpustax and a second by Commissioner Bremer. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? And then moving on to the approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes from the January 11th, 2021 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alder Corpustax, second by Commissioner Linsmeyer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then approval of the minutes from the January 21st, 2021 special meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, so we got a motion by Commissioner Bremer, a second by Alder Corpustax. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And then on to regular business. Appointment of Neil Steckschulte as Secretary of the Green Bay Plan Commission. Did I get it? So do we need to talk about this, or are we just voting on this?
I believe this is just Melody. Plus, I joked with staff, unless anybody else on staff wants this, and they made it very clear that they felt it was safest if I was appointed as secretary. So
I think it's just a need for a motion in a second. Appointment of Neil Steckschulte.
Thank you, Commissioner Brenner. Thank you.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Bremer, second by Alder Corpustax. I'm assuming since this is in regular business that we should do a roll call vote for this.
Sure. You wouldn't have to. You could just do a voice vote.
Do a yay or nay. Okay. All right.
Yeah, voice vote is going to be fine.
Okay. Thanks, Jess.
You bet.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And all right, so that passes. Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, and moving on to
thank you,
which is a public hearing. Where is my sheet for? All right. Okay, so public hearing on the request to rezone 1500 North Irwin Avenue from general commercial C1 to highway commercial C2, submitted by Rocco Canadeo, property owner. And with the public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Green Bay Press Gazette. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or are only providing information in this matter, and your comments or concerns. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. You must be recognized by speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. And if you are calling in from a phone line, it is *6 to unmute yourself and speak, because we don't always see everybody who's showing up. And so if we don't see you, just feel free to unmute yourself and speak up. So I guess now we'll now open the public hearing, and we're looking for interested parties who are in favor of this proposal. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this proposal? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this proposal? And is there anyone looking to provide?
Excuse me, Madam Chair. I see a gentleman, David Barkowski, who seems to be connecting with audio but isn't yet with us. Am I right? Mr. Barkowski, perhaps you could give us a thumbs up if you wish to speak. Yes, he would like to.
Okay. You can go ahead and and this is the 1500 North Irwin Avenue. Mr. Bartkowski, were you looking to speak on that item? You're on mute. I'm sorry.
He's attempting to.
Yeah, he is on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Are you looking to speak on the 1500 North Irwin Avenue?
No, I'm not. I'm speaking on behalf of the drive-through.
Right. That's what I think, but I was just making sure.
Okay, yeah. That's the only thing I'm speaking on tonight. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Was there anyone else wishing to speak to provide information only on the 1500 North Irwin Avenue from general commercial to highway commercial? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one has come forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to item number 3 of regular business, consideration with possible action on the request to rezone 1500 North Irwin Avenue from general commercial C1 to commercial highway to highway commercial C2, submitted by Rocco Canadeo, property owner.
So I think that's my agenda item. Did Paul or Dave want to share the PowerPoint? Okay, awesome. Perfect. All right, so as you can see, we received an application to rezone, as you can see the subject area in pink, from general commercial C1 to highway commercial C2. And that's over on the east side. That's 1500 North Irwin Avenue. This is also in Kathy Lefebvre's District 6, and she was also made notice of this as well. Next is the future land use. As you can see, it's all commercial as well as it recommends in the smart growth plan, which is coming to an end that needs to be updated. But most of the north and south is commercial and east and west is low density residential. Next one. So again, very similar. The current zoning is commercial, C1, and everything around it to the east and west is single family. I think it's important to note kind of the difference between C1 and C2. They're actually very similar, but C2 allows for auto service stations, auto rental and sales, service of recreational vehicles, and even agricultural equipment. So I wanted to kind of note that because he really just kind of wants to expand his business and offer just more services. So as you can see from kind of the aerial and the street views, it looks like it is predominantly used for auto-oriented repairs. It's got about 14 stalls, mostly concrete, about 3 garages, and behind it has kind of a screening with tires and just extra storage space. It also has 2 entrances, one on Irwin and one on Vanderbroek, and then a sign and kind of an office space in the front area. So the other thing was I didn't receive any complaints or kind of concern about this from any of the residents. However, this morning, Kathy Lefebvre contacted me and said that a local resident that lives in one of the adjacent homes, I think on Wise Street, was complaining that sometimes they are using poor ventilation, and whether they're doing repairs or perhaps even spraying paint, residents can smell that. So I spoke with the building inspectors today, and we'd still like to move ahead with the approval of this request. I think it fits where it's situated. However, we wanted to add a couple conditions. So one of them was compliance to all ventilation standards and HVAC regulations within the city of Green Bay, and that it meets code requirements with an application for review to the building inspection department. And this will also include proper plans and permits. So if anything, as he moves forward with this rezone and he's expanding his business, that everything is compliant with the city. And so local residents aren't kind of running into some issues with ventilation and the smell.
Okay, so thank you, Madison. So basically recommending approval, but with those conditions in place.
Yes.
Okay. Was there any discussion amongst the commission? Or any questions for staff? Do we know, was there anyone that was looking? Doesn't really look like it.
In that case, move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Bremer. Any further discussion? All right, with that, we'll just take a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so unanimously moving forward to the next city council meeting, which is the 16th?
Yes.
Is that correct? So city council on February, I almost said August.
Wishful thinking.
So February 16th, okay.
Madam
Just
Chair.
to note, Madam Chair, I believe the council meeting is actually on Wednesday, the 17th, because the election is on the 6th.
Oh,
Yep.
Good
excellent.
call, correct. Okay, so the meeting is actually the 17th, okay.
Correct.
And
Thank you
we've
so
done,
much.
we've done a couple voice votes, which seem thoroughly appropriate to me, but we have voted by roll call on agenda items before. Is there a reason for that change?
The reason for the change is because Jessica just messaged me and said that we could do voice votes for all of them. So I was just going with,
We can do the voice votes, or excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah, the voice votes for our items.
it felt very strange to me too, Sid.
But that's what we have Jessica here for, to help us out. Thanks,
Right.
Jessie.
Yep,
Making
no
my
problem.
job easier. Okay, all right. So moving on then for the public hearing on the request to rezone 2226 Main Street from general commercial C1 to highway commercial, submitted by Doug Reiser on behalf of Enterprise Rent-A-Car Company of Wisconsin, LLC applicant. So we will open the public hearing portion of this agenda item and looking for interested parties who would be looking to speak that are in favor of the agenda item.
Hi, this is Doug Reiser. I'm with Enterprise. I don't know if you wanted me to say anything or not, but I'm here if there are any questions. Basically, we're just down the street, a couple blocks, and this building opportunity presented itself, and feel like it's a better opportunity for us to better position our brand with a nice commercial building and a little bit more space for us. So that's what we're looking to accomplish.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Reiser. And if we do have any questions too during the actionable item, we'll certainly bring you forward. Thank you so much for your testimony. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this agenda item? And is there anyone looking to provide information only on this agenda item? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone else looking to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving forward to the agenda item 5, consideration with possible action on the request to rezone 2226 Main Street from general commercial C1 to highway commercial C, submitted by Doug Reiser on behalf of Enterprise Rent-A-Car Company of Wisconsin, LLC applicant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Paul, if you could put the PowerPoint back up, please. Thank you. The subject property here is 2226 Main Street, which is on the West Main Street frontage on the east side of town. You may be familiar with this area. We recently redid the Starbucks drive-through building, which is right south of this building. This is a vacant Fastenal property. This area is currently zoned C1, this parcel in particular. If you could go to the next slide, please. This is our future land use map showing the entire area as commercial. No surprise there. Main Street is basically our commercial corridor. There's some splattering of housing just south of here, but most of this area is commercial. The next slide is our zoning map, which shows kind of a snaggletooth between C1 and C2. This property is C1, asking for the request to C2. Our staff has taken a look at this area to see if the entire area may be eligible in the future for straight C2 zoning, so it doesn't go back and forth between the C1 and C2. Since this is a frontage road, those are primarily auto-related uses, so we wouldn't necessarily have issue with more auto uses going here, which is really what that C2 zoning allows for. Right now, the C1 does not allow for the auto rental, and C2 allows that by right, no conditions needed. So there was in your street view of this location, it's got a standing building with a parking lot. We see no issues with this request. It's pretty straightforward on our end. The use itself is agreeable with the uses that are around it. It's even sparking some conversation around expanding that zoning district. They aren't planning to do any expansion of the site as it stands now. So no parking expansion, no building expansion. If they do need to in the future, they'll go through obviously our proper site planning channels, but the rezoning itself, we're recommending approval.
Okay, thank you so much, staff. Any discussion amongst the commission or questions for staff? Go ahead, Commissioner Bremer.
A question for Stephanie Hummel. Are you making this motion, this change to apply to the entire strip along the left-hand side of the road there, Stephanie? Or just the one that has been requested?
Just the request from Enterprise at this point. We may as staff take up the entire area for rezoning, but at this point, it's just 2226 Main Street.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Is there anyone that's looking to speak on this item? Otherwise, I would certainly entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
The motion by Commissioner Bremer, second by Commissioner Daniels. Any further discussion? All right, we'll go ahead with a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, hearing that, it's unanimously approved. Moving forward with the approval of the request to the City Council meeting on February 17th. And moving on to item number 6, consideration with possible action on the request to amend the comprehensive plan for the property located at 215 Elizabeth Street from medium density retail, office, or housing to commercial, submitted by Steve Bita, Mao and Associates, on behalf of Mirashimi Incorporated, property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me just try and bring up the graphic here. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay, good, thanks. So this request might look familiar. This is a request for a comprehensive plan amendment that was before the Plan Commission back in late August. The property is the northwest corner of Main Street and Elizabeth Street, near the East River here. Riverside Ballroom's kind of the historic landmark here. The request again was to the comprehensive plan amendment to go to commercial. This area, the comp plan recommends a high intensity retail office or housing. The idea is to create this as a car lot in the future. And this again was at the Plan Commission, got to the council. At the Plan Commission and staff, well, the staff recommended denial of this request at the Plan Commission meeting. The Plan Commission also recommended denial of this item. However, when it got to council, it was referred back for further consideration. So since that time, the applicant has been reaching out to the neighbors, the immediate neighbors, to talk to them about the opportunities of this comprehensive plan amendment. There is a revised information from the applicant that's attached within your agenda tonight. They talked to those property owners. There are some signed letters from adjoining owners and those in the neighborhood supporting this change, but they're mainly on the north side of Proper Street. They do not always reflect the full neighborhood's thoughts or feelings on this. Again, just to kind of briefly run through, this shows the city's comprehensive plan as it currently stands with that medium intensity retail, office, or housing. The need is to go to a highway commercial zoning here, so they need to change the comp plan. This is the current zoning of the area. There is some existing highway commercial on the corner here. The balance of the property has an existing general commercial use. There was a former tavern back here at one point that's been since removed for several years. This is a graphic or site plan you may have seen in the past or at that Plan Commission meeting showing the proposed layout from the applicant, showing the addition of the parking areas for the used car sales. The site plan has been revised. They've kind of reduced that area down about 40 feet from the previous plan here. So they've reduced the impact on the neighbors. And staff feels that ultimately is a significant amount of mitigation to change our recommendation, actually. So at this point, staff is changing our recommendation to support this request, the comprehensive plan amendment to go to commercial, but only to about 320 feet north of Main and Elizabeth at this point. The balance of the property to the north, this transitional area, I guess we'll call it, would be zoned to a low density residential, kind of a transitional area, but kind of no man's land. We've talked in the past about spite strip zoning. That's a tool in our toolbox that we don't often like to use, but in this case, may be appropriate to provide some transition for neighbors. We did receive one objection to this request, and that email is attached within this agenda, but that is a recommendation tonight to approve this request.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Go ahead, Commissioner Bremer.
Alderman Newmeyer, would you be so good as to go back to the site plan for us? And I want to understand the 230 feet and where that comes on this plan?
Right, this is the revised site plan here, if you can see that. Comp plan lines, land use lines are typically somewght arbitrary, so we gave a range, and 320 feet would be generally measured from this point due north to pretty much match up with this line here. The balance of the property would be for low density use.
So this site plan would fit the qualification that you've added?
Yes, it would. Yes, approximately, yes. And I should also note that there is a proposed detached garage. I've talked to the applicant about that. They've agreed to pull that back out of that area, so the balance of that property will most likely be left green space.
And then another question, as you were mentioning the neighbors having stepped in support, did you say that those were people who all lived on the north side of Proper Street?
Yes, that's what I found to be true. Let me just see here.
So none of them abut directly onto this property?
There was one property owner here, Doyle Properties. They signed a letter or statement saying that they did not object here. The other ones were on the north side of Proper here. But at the south side, the most immediate neighbors I did not receive any correspondence except for one objection.
And the one objector was also from the south side of Proper?
I believe so, yes.
So there is apparently some continuing concern for those who are adjacent to the property about some of the matters that were fairly specific in that letter of objection. It wasn't just a vote, and by state law, we're not allowed to count the votes of the neighbors, but it was fairly specific about concerns with noise and especially light, as I recall. Can you remind us of other things that were in that letter, Paul?
From the property owner?
From the gentleman who was objecting.
I don't have that right in front of me.
He talks about the direct line of light that comes through the front windows and blasts into the living.
Blasts, indeed.
Yeah, well, it already happens from the car's headlights parked in the lot to get food at the taco truck.
Yeah. So it's not something that could be corrected by the owner because it's the traffic coming through that's causing the problem for him.
Well, I think there's some opportunities here, both on the north side and on the west side of the property, to have an appropriate transitional yard. I don't know that it'll screen 100% lights from vehicles, but I think there'll be a better situation than there currently is.
Good.
Yeah, because I mean, if he's on it looks like he's 1565 Proper Street. And if they have, I'm assuming that diagram that you showed us, Paul, with the new site plan, that was all green space and trees or plants that were being planted back.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. I mean, there is the sheer size of the area, but there's also a transitional yard requirement for potential fencing and additional landscaping to soften that area.
Okay. Thank you. Were there any other questions for staff or, I guess, discussion amongst the committee? It doesn't look like there's anyone that's looking to speak on this item.
The applicant is here.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I had a question for Paul Quick, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I remember back in August when we had this last time, the main problem from the petitioner was they needed a certain amount of volume of spaces to make the business work. And I believe it was kind of a make or break that if they didn't have that amount of volume, it was going to be, the business wasn't going to be viable. Did they come back to you with this more scaled back design, or was this a collaboration between you and them to kind of arrive at that, or was this their doing and they brought this towards us?
Yeah, staff did not participate in any discussions with the applicant or with the property owner. So I think the applicant arrived at this plan based on their conversation with neighbors that participated in their own revised design. And after reviewing it, that amount of buffer space that's there, that
obviously it's acceptable to you based on the recommendation there, but if I just stepping aside from what they presented, would, you know, if you would have given them a recommendation, would it look something like this in terms of that buffer area?
Yeah, I'm not going to say this is an easy decision by any means, and for us to change our recommendation is somewhat difficult at times, but I think there's been an effort made by the applicant to make a reasonable effort to fit this into the neighborhood, and I think it does work. I guess time will tell, certainly, but I think it seems reasonable to staff. But again, you know, from a neighbor's perspective, it might be different. Certainly, I'm sure the applicant would like to have roads for another 100 cars, but I guess that's just not practical. So I think we find this as a kind of a common ground, meeting both sides, so to speak.
Great, thank you.
Perhaps we should open the floor so the applicant could directly answer these questions. I'd like to move to do so.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bremer, second by Vice Chair Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then with that, we'll open the floor. And if the applicant would like to step forward, state your name and address, and give us a little rundown on.
My name is Joe Mir Hashemi. I'm the owner of the Mir Hashemi Inc.
And John Leroy with Mount Associates. To the commission, this has been a process with neighbors, both residential and commercial here for the past few months to go ahead and find solutions that can go ahead and make this parcel work. Right now, the design, as far as having the buffer on the north end and hearing comments from neighbors to go ahead and ensure more of a green space and space to put vegetation up to hide any sort of lighting and to make the transition from the wooded backyards to the now gravel and beaten up parking lot, but to be improved parking lot was a concern. So with the changes to the plan itself, right now, this is about the limit for the minimum amount of spaces to make this use work right here. We went through the calculations as far as how many stalls are needed, and while it would have been helpful to go ahead and have those extra stalls, it's suitable right now with what we have layout itself. As noted by Paul, and hearing feedback from staff, the garage in the back, which was planned to go ahead and be used on the existing slab from the former restaurant and bar that was in the property some 20 years ago, was to be slated as a garage, but it was felt that we could go ahead and, while it be useful for the overall operations of the site, don't need to have it. And with neighbors mentioning that that could be an issue, okay, that can be seen then too. So Mr. Mirashemi has went around the neighborhood over the past few months to go ahead and queue questions from neighbors, and this is where the site plan has been revised to.
Thank you so much. Anyone on the commission have questions for the applicant?
One other minor question. I can't figure out how to get at the materials we were sent as well as our pretty pictures, but as I understand it, it's a mix of deciduous and evergreen trees that will be in that area at the back. Is that correct? That would be important, I think, both for blocking light and also for blocking sound.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Very thoughtful job of response.
Thank you.
Was there anyone else on the commission that had questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you so much. Was there anyone else wishing to speak on this agenda item?
Then I move that we close the public comment and return to regular order of business.
Do I have a second for that?
Oh, second, sorry.
The motion by Commissioner Bremer, second by Vice Chair Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Back to regular order. Any further discussion amongst the commission?
Not discussion, but just to echo Sid's comments of thanks to the petitioner for doing the due diligence to go to the neighborhood and probably take on some uncomfortable conversations. I think that's really appreciated and some good cooperation with the neighborhood that they're going to be residing in. So I think the additional buffer makes a lot of sense and probably actually will provide an improvement for the neighbors in terms of just visual, but also in terms of the light coming from both the lot and Mason Street going by there as well too. So while auto yard is not always the highest use, of course, you know, that we'd like to see in the city, I think it's a lot better than a dilapidated lot right now. So I will move to approve.
I will second, but I think I may have seen Alder Corpus Dax trying to second with herself muted there. You're open now.
Nope, I was trying to shush my cat.
Necessary. So you could take my second, Madam Chair.
All right. So a motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Bremer. Any further discussion? All right, then we'll go ahead with a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, and then that moves through unanimously to the next city council meeting, February 17th.
I just want to note to Plan Commission members, this is the comprehensive plan, obviously, so a rezoning request will have to come in next, and you'll see that in the near future as well.
Thank you, Paul. All right, moving on to item number 7. Consideration with possible action on a request of Alder Corpus Dax to examine regulations regarding the current zoning code and drive-through or pickup lanes, pass lanes, and or menu boards.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, the zoning administrator kind of failed to properly notice this item. So we're going to ask that this item be held until we can properly notice a public hearing, and we'll take it up at a future time. So I apologize for that inconvenience.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
So a motion by Commissioner Bremer, second by Alder Corpus Dax to hold this item over. Any further discussion?
We do need to vote on that.
Like an actual roll call vote?
No, just.
Oh, I was was getting there. All right, we'll go ahead with a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Holding it over.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then when will that be held over? Paul, will it be the next meeting or?
Well, we have to do 2 public hearing notices, so I suspect it'll be early March. Maybe the first March meeting will take it up.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Moving on to informational director's report.
As this is day number 6 for me in this position, I don't have a whole lot to add other than the staff has been doing a great job of trying to get me up to speed. Looks like it's going to be a busy year for the Plan Commission if even half of these things come to fruition. So looking forward to bringing some more items together to review here this coming year. So I am in the saddle now. So if anyone ever has any questions, please certainly feel free to reach out to me. But obviously the rest of the staff here is carrying the load on most of these and doing a great job. So certainly please feel free to reach out to any of us. Dave, Steph, Madison, Paul, anything else you guys would like to add?
I don't think
like
so. No.
Okay. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll have more detailed report in the future, but for now, that's what I've got for you. So.
Thank you so much. All right, so then update on 2019 to 2020 housing affordability report.
Yeah, to give a quick update because it's on our website and it's 62 pages. So, but I think this spun out of, I think it's Act 243 back in 2017. There was a required housing fee report and an annual housing affordability report. So this is the first year that I've been able to work on it, but municipalities of over 10,000 population are required to have this updated, and it just kind of looks at how many building permits are going out, CSMs, plats. I was mostly just updating numbers. The nice thing was I was able to kind of add stuff from our new housing market study in there as well, and kind of do a little shout out at the bottom of that so people can also look at that as well. Not much has changed. We definitely need more housing, and there was a lot about a push for affordable housing. Yeah, I guess I'm up for feedback if anyone wants to look through it. I know Sid gave me some punctuation grammar that I'm going to add in there. But you know what? I was actually most flattered that you read it. So thank you.
I have a reputation I have to maintain, Madison. But I do have a couple questions of substance. First of all, just to say, I think it's a very thoughtful analysis. Am I right? Along the way, let's see, where is it? On page 8, where it talks about zoning changes that cannot be done ahead of having a private request for a zoning change. Am I right in understanding that that's the problem we ran into with the junkyard? That we had the Velp Avenue plan and the stuff that we were looking for along there was not inclusive of a junkyard, but we hadn't made any kind of change in zoning. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think that's something that we've been looking at internally as well, doing proactive rezoning and proactive inspections to kind of not run into this, but currently we're still going to have a little bit of that along the way.
Would it make sense to include that as something under review in a report like this, or is it best just to stay quiet?
I guess that's up to the rest of the planners as well. I mean, we are looking at doing that, so it might be good to include that.
One thing that when we undertake the comprehensive plan this fall, that's going to be a perfect venue for that discussion. I think these reports that Madison is so painstakingly updated, I think our primary objective is those as to meet the statutory reporting requirements of the state statute.
Okay.
So while it's not a pretty document, it's an extreme amount of information. It's an incredible amount of information. So I think so really the main objective obviously is to make sure we meet that requirement. But I do believe that would be an excellent conversation for the comprehensive plan update.
Okay. And then another question I have, which actually is, why is it that Wisconsin law prohibits proper inspection and control of housing quality? I hadn't realized that there was a legal prohibition on that. That just knocked my socks off. Anybody have any information on that?
I would think that probably the fairest response to that, Commissioner Bremer, would need to ask your state representatives on that one. I think that was probably something that in terms of some of the interested parties who helped push for that particular requirement, maybe had some personal interests in mind in terms of their own operations and got that incorporated into the language. But that is speculation on my part. But I think you would have to actually go back and ask the legislators who adopted that policy.
Is it a policy that was adopted fairly recently?
Well, I agree with Neil. Said it was really a reaction to some of the rental inspection policies that started to appear around the state in Wausau, La Crosse, and Oshkosh area and in the valley. It rubbed some people the wrong way, and then the Developers Bill of Rights was passed by the legislature, and this was included in there.
And this was included in that. Thank you. That was the information I needed. Okay, we've already lost that fight. for quality housing. I mean, somehow it does seem like a good thing to me. Thank you for an excellent draft, Madison.
Thank you.
Okay, so then moving on of the next meeting, which is February 22nd of 2021. And do
Motion
it.
to approve. Or motion to adjourn.
I like
Second.
your going at this. All right. Just on it with adjournment, because I feel like I've always done votes on this. Do we really need a vote on that?
We can
Does it?
vote with our clickers.
Well, it can be
Yeah,
a
but we
voice-
still need a
it
vote
can
to
be a
adjourn.
voice vote,
Sorry, what did you say?
Vote.
We do need a vote to adjourn.
Yes.
We can do a voice vote, right?
That is correct.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. I guess we probably need a motion then? We need a motion in a second.
We got the motion and we got the second.
Did we? Where am I?
That's okay.
All those in favor?
Aye, yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
You all,
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Yep.
on the 22nd.